Well, so I decided to install Ubuntu on VMware just to see what happened. Why? Just because. What's up guys, I'm Aaron the Tech Guy, and welcome back to yet another episode of It's Quarantine and I'm bored, so I'm doing random stuff because I am really bored and I have nothing else to do. Okay, so yesterday I decided to install Ubuntu on VMware on my laptop because I've always been curious how Linux and that whole experience worked. So this video is going to be about my experiences in the past day and a half and whether I'd ever consider actually switching to it as my main operating system. So to preface this video a little bit, I've tried Ubuntu a little bit before, but I've never had a computer powerful enough to actually run this smoothly, as a virtual machine at least. I've tried also booting from a live USB, but that wasn't really a good experience because I couldn't actually save anything. So now I have an i7 and 12 gigs of RAM. So I'm now able to dedicate more than 8 gigs of RAM to Ubuntu and 4 processing cores. So I'm able to run it completely smoothly. So I'm just going to start off by talking about the setup of my virtual machine. So if I go into VMware, I can edit the virtual machine settings and I'll show you how I have it set up. So I have it set up that I'm using the maximum recommended memory so that it's as smooth as possible, and I'm using all 4 of my processing cores. That means that while the virtual machine is in use, I basically can't do anything at all. But that doesn't matter because I'm trying to use this as my main OS. Okay, so now I'm going to boot up the virtual machine. Just to note, this is probably going to be pretty slow because I'm trying to screen record at the same time as I'm using the machine. So it's a little bit less indicative of real world performance. And I can log in. As soon as I'm logged in, I'm greeted with the Ubuntu user interface. Personally, I think this background is really cool, like way cooler than the Windows default background. So Microsoft, get on it. So now you can see I have my applications. They're all here. And I have my favorites. So it's similar to how you'd see it on a Windows or a Mac OS machine. So now just for testing purposes, I'm going to open my mail. So it opens up relatively quickly. And I can, that's my email address. And I can open things and drag them around. Ubuntu does support Snap, which is fantastic because I love Snap. I use it all the time for everything. Now, being in the Files app reminds me of one of my favorite features of Ubuntu. When you first set up, you're given the option to sign into an account. And once you sign in, you have the ability to access all the files stored on your Dropbox or Google Drive or whatever. So I can open up my school schedule without ever having to use any sort of shared folder. Everything that I do is just right here, right in front of me. I can open up photos, anything that I want. It's all just right here. And as you can see as I move through the OS, it's fairly responsive. Ubuntu does support dual screen through VMware, which is fantastic because I use that all the time, as I mentioned in my previous video. The link for that video will be in the description below. I hope you enjoy it. Now onto software. Software is where this really starts to fail. I cannot use, since this is Linux, I cannot use any type of Windows program, even with Wine. I have not figured out how to get it to work yet. If there are any updates on that, I will make a video on it as like a tutorial or something, because I spent an hour on it today and I could not figure out how it works at all. However, there are certain programs like Google Chrome. Now I'm gonna launch it right now, and it is pretty much just like any other browser experience you've ever had before. It's the exact same thing. There's also an Ubuntu software store, which is like an app store, but there's like nothing in it, so I can't. They seem to be more designed for developers or people who know what they're doing. There are also tons of Linux programs that you can download through the terminal. However, If you're new to this, it's very, very difficult. Even though there are step-by-step instructions, there are often error codes and stuff like that that need to be troubleshooted. Unlike on Windows or Mac OS, where you can just log on, download the program, install the installer file, and it takes about a minute total. You have to go into the terminal, which is, again, more difficult. Moving on to that terminal though, I happen to prefer it to any other terminal. It's very compared to other terminals, it's very simple to use. The controls make sense, and you can run software updates through it, which is very nice. Because on Linux, software updates actually do not require to almost ever to restart the computer, which is very nice. Now onto another sticking point of Ubuntu or VMware. I have not figured out which. The touchscreen does not work. If I go to tap on something, yes, I can tap on something, but then when I try to scroll, you can see that the touchscreen is just acting as a mouse, not as a touchscreen, which is very annoying because I use this computer and the touchscreen extensively in tablet mode, meaning that I can never actually fully switch on my computer to any Linux distro. Certain things like the camera, I have not gotten to work yet, but I think that's just because I'm using VMware, and it would work if I actually installed it as my host OS. So I guess on to my conclusion. Ubuntu has been fun to use, and I actually prefer some of the things like the terminal, and I like the window animations actually. They're kind of fun, and they're playful. And I enjoy having things like similar to mission control. However, I use Premiere and many Windows programs on a daily basis. If I were to switch to any Linux distro, I would have to spend a lot of time switching to other programs, using Google Drive, LibreOffice, whatever, and I'd have to learn how to use DaVinci Resolve, which is the only video editor that works on Linux. So for that reason, I can never install it as my main OS. However, I will still be using it as a secondary OS in the virtual machine, and if I were to get a desktop in the future, I might consider dual booting it with my main OS, because it has been a lot of fun to use for the past 2 days. If any developments come up, I will let you know in a tutorial video or maybe an update video sometime down the line. Congratulations, you've made it to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications with a bell icon so you don't miss any of our future videos. As always, you're watching Aaron, the Tech Guy.